Welcome to the Letcher County Extension Show. I'm your host, Shad Baker, and we're now in my 26th year, working on 27 years as your county extension agent. And I just wanted to say thank you for those of you that have been good to visit with us at the office and utilize us. We're here for your benefit. And to that effect, what we're going to be talking about today is firewood. And I know some of you might think, why on earth would he talk about firewood? Well, the big reason I talk about firewood is because we live in a forest in Letcher County. We're surrounded by wood. And we also have a lot of people that struggle to pay their utility bills. And if you haven't noticed, utility rates have gone up, and that means that our power bills keep going up. And so one way, if you're able to get firewood, that's a great way to save money on your heating bill, is to burn wood. I've got a little chart here that compares the heating options. I'm going to have James zoom in on that. But if you'll look there at the top, there's a lot of assumptions on this little chart, but just in general, they're comparing what it would cost to heat with electricity versus premium wood pellets, seasoned firewood, and natural gas. And you can see that electricity is the highest thing that you could use to heat your home with. And the lowest is the seasoned firewood. And just slightly more expensive than seasoned wood is the natural gas and then the pellets. So your seasoned wood is your cheapest way to heat your house. And but this only works if it's seasoned. And you can see that that is 20% moisture content. That's what that 20% MC stands for. So we're going to be talking a little bit about firewood and how to get seasoned firewood and that kind of a thing. So all firewood is not created equal. Different woods have different densities. So if you think about things like pine or poplar, those will burn. They will burn hot. And if that's what you've got, that's not a bad thing to burn. But if you're trying to buy it to heat your house, it's not a very dense wood. It's got a lot of air pockets in it. And so usually when people buy wood, they're buying it by the cord, which is basically a 4 foot by 8 foot by 4 foot area. So it's 128 cubic feet. And if you think about a pickup truck, that's about the size of a standard size pickup truck bed. That's about what it amounts to. So if you get a cord of poplar wood versus a cord of white oak or hedge apple or Osage orange is another name for it. Those woods, the oak and the hedge apple, those are a lot more dense than the poplar or the pine are. And so even though they're going to burn at the same temperature, the oak is going to burn a lot longer than the poplar will. That poplar will, because it's so porous, it's going to burn up faster. So there's a lot less heating potential in that wood compared to the oak. So for this to work out, you really need to get a seasoned hardwood firewood. Don't believe just because somebody comes to you and says, oh, well, that's oak. You need to learn what your wood is. I bought some wood one time here in the county, and I won't name any names to protect the guilty, but they told me that it was oak. And when they showed up at the house, it was at least half ash, which is fine. Ash is a fine firewood, but the other, probably a quarter of it was beech, and then only a quarter of it was oak. And that meant that I was being charged for something that I wasn't really getting. So you really do need to know how to identify your types of wood, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ones here in just a second. But you need to make sure that it's seasoned. And another reason that you make sure it's seasoned, other than, we talked about the 20%, that's the moisture content. If it's above 20%, when you burn that wood, a lot of the energy in that wood is going towards evaporating that water off. So if you think about if you throw a wet cotton ball in a fire versus a dry cotton ball in the fire, how are they going to burn? Well, the wet one is going to smolder for a long time, and it will eventually burn, but it's going to smolder for a long time. Whereas the dry one is just going to go up in flames pretty quick. So when it smolders like that, you're losing heating ability of the wood because it's going towards that evaporating. But it's also, as it's smoldering and that smoke is coming off of it, that's contributing to creosote buildup in your fireplace. So, and if you've ever burnt wood before, you probably know creosote is this gummy type stuff that comes out of the wood that will accumulate in the chimney or in the stack, and it will, once it builds up there, it can reduce the airflow and cause your fireplace not to be as efficient. But it's also a fire hazard, because over time that can dry out. And then when you get a really good fire going, it ignites that creosote, and that's what they call a chimney fire. And so it can cause your house to burn down if it gets too hot and cracks that fireplace. So there's a safety component to making sure that the wood is seasoned, and it's also a money-saving thing. Usually it takes about 6 months for our wood to dry. And that assumes that it's already been split. If you've left the wood in big pieces, that wood dries at about 1 inch per year. So if it's that big around, that might be 10 or 15 years before that wood is dry enough to really burn good. Whereas if you split it and it's in pieces like this, and it's drying in from all 4 sides or all 3 sides, most of that is going to be seasoned out in 6 months to a year. So you definitely want to make sure it's seasoned. You can tell if it's seasoned by the eyeball, by looking to see, are the ends of the pieces of wood, are they cracked? As wood dries, that firewood will crack, and you'll see these little lines all through it, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. Another thing is, instead of having that bright color that it would have when it's fresh, it'll take on kind of a gray hue to it. So good seasoned wood ought to be cracked, and it ought to be gray. And if it's not, then you start to think, well, maybe it's not as dry as we think it is. Now, that whole color thing is kind of dependent on it being out in the sun, and that is what helps it dry down. If it has been left somewhere that it's not exposed to a lot of sunlight, it will not fade down to the gray. I'm going to show you some that we have here that is not gray, but it is very seasoned. It's been cut for I think 2 years now, and but it's still got the color. So there is another way to tell, and it's a pretty cheap way. I've got here with me a moisture meter, and you can buy this on Amazon. I think I might have paid around $30 for this, so it's not very expensive at all. It has 2 little probes here on the top of it, and when I turn it on, it'll light up, but it's telling you the percent humidity or moisture content. So right now it's blank, but James, is it going to throw things off if I come on up there close? I'm going to show you how this thing works. So I'm going to take one of these pieces of wood here, and I'm just going to hold the probe to the ends of the wood, and it's going to make a connection. And if you can see that, it's saying that's 7.5 or 7.4% moisture content. That is extremely dry wood. So that would burn great. The thing that you're looking for is anything less than 20%. If it's over 20%, it really needs to dry down a little more. And since I'm already up here, I'll show you what I was talking about earlier about the color change. We already know that both of these pieces of wood are seasoned, but this one has gotten exposed to the sunlight, so it's bleached and it's kind of got that gray tint. This one, we've restacked all this, so don't be confused by that. This was stacked somewhere else. This one has been stacked somewhere that it was protected from the sun, so it's still got that color. And you can see some of the pieces down in here. This one's got that gray hue to it. This one's still got its color. But that's kind of what I'm talking about it being seasoned. So the goal is to get it down less than 20%. I'm going to show you one here too, since we talked about that cracking earlier. Let's pause, James. Goodness. All right, so we're back. I had to take a commercial time out. I talked to you earlier about the cracking. This is what I'm talking about when I say that seasoned wood is cracked. You should see a lot of these cracks in it. One thing that you do not want to see, this is what they call doughy. So this is a wood that has been fed on by insects, and sometimes I think it has to do with a rot that was in the tree to begin with. But when wood gets doughy like this, it'll just chip off, and it's real light. It's like a sponge, and that will burn like that cotton ball I talked about. So this is not going to last. If somebody brings you a bunch of wood that's doughy like this, this is a wasted trip. You can burn it, but you're not getting your money's worth out of it when it looks like that. We had talked earlier about different types of wood to burn, and one of the best is white oak, which is what this is. And if you look at the bark of the tree, it's got kind of a real light color, and that's why it has the name of white oak. There's another one here that I think is a dandy, and I don't know if any of you would recognize what kind of wood that is, but it burns great, and that's a locust. So locust is good for us. White oak is good for us. Those are your two, for where we live, those are the two best woods you can get. Red oak is also good. Hard maple or sugar maple is good. But if you have your choice, you would always go with one of these two. But I just wanted to show you those couple of things. So we've talked about the moisture meter. If you don't have a moisture meter, you can check for those cracks and that coloring, and that'll give you a little bit of a hint as far as what the moisture content is. Another way you can do this has nothing to do with the way the wood looks or anything. It's when you buy it. So if you know you're going to be heating with wood next year, trying to buy your wood up at the end of this season would be the time to do it. So you start buying your wood in March or April, and you're guaranteed that it's going to be ready to go for you by that winter. August or September is usually the latest that you can cut wood, and it still have time. If it's split, stacked, and properly seasoned, it'll still have enough time to dry down enough for you to use it. If you're getting your own wood and you're kind of up against it and you don't know what you can do, there's not time to season it out. Look for trees that are already dead, that have either seasoned standing up or they are laying propped up on the ground, but they've seasoned already. And that means all the bark has already fallen off of them. That tells you that they've been dead for a while. If you are going to start cutting on trees, I just want to make sure that you know to be careful. Dead trees cause dead loggers, and I would be very careful and probably would avoid any standing tree unless I had a lot of experience cutting dead trees. Most of the injuries that I've seen in the woods have come from dead trees. So limbs break out and they can get under pressure and flip away that you're not expecting them to, and you're not going to save any money if your electric bill goes down but your hospital bill goes up. So we're not interested in anybody getting hurt. When I do this, I try to make sure that I find a tree that's already been dead for a while and is laying on the ground in a dry place and the bark's already gone. If I can find that, then I know I'm in good shape. Let's see, what else do we talk about? As far as how to store it. So I think some of this is kind of common sense, but I'll hit on it anyway. If you have the ability to store it under a covering, that's great. You don't want it to be too close to your house. There are insects that are feeding on that wood that might decide that you've given them the salad bar and your house is the main course. So you don't want to bring in termites or other bugs that will feed on wood close to your house. So stack it out away from the house a little bit. But if you've got something like a shed that you can store it under, that's great. One of the videos that UK put out, they basically just took pallets and they built them a wood shed with just some 2x4s and tin and pallets, and that was a great way to do it. But you're trying to get it up off the ground. Usually, if it's a place that's good for growing a garden, it's also a place that's good for seasoning firewood. And it needs to have good airflow that will blow through the stack of wood. It needs to get sunlight. So sometimes, and I've done this before and I've seen other people do it, they think that if they cover the stack completely with a piece of tarp, that they've done something good, that they're keeping the water off of it. And you're keeping the rainwater off of it, but it's humid under that tarp. It's better to just put the tarp or belt line or metal or whatever you're using over top of it, but leave the sides open so that the air can still flow through. But you want to get it up off the ground. Those pieces of wood are kind of like a sponge, and they will soak up moisture from the ground. And especially the pieces that are on the bottom, those are all going to be water soaked. So you'll see in this stack that we've got here in front of us, that is stacked up on old pallets. And we're going to hang on to the pallets, but we're using the wood. So I've seen people use belt line for this. I've seen people that have stacked it on top of pieces of pipe or anything that just elevates it up off the ground a little bit. That's what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're getting wood yourself, they don't recommend that you move it more than about 20 or 30 miles, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One is you're out the price of the gas to move it that far, and you're cutting it down on the efficiency or the financial incentive to burn the wood. If you're going to be trucking it from 20 or 30 or 40 plus miles away, you might as well use natural gas. But if it's less than 20 or 30 miles, you're saving on that gas part of it. The other thing is, there are a lot of our invasive pests that will live in that wood, kind of like our emerald ash borer. They will live in the wood even when the tree is dead. And if I take that piece of contaminated wood and move it, then I've moved that pest to a new place. They might not have had that pest before, and now they do. So I would tell you, don't move firewood around. Burn it, or buy it where you burn it, and cut it where you're going to burn it, within 20 or 30 miles of where it's going to be. When you do cut it, make sure that it's the right length. If you're doing it yourself, or if you're ordering it from somebody else or getting them to deliver it, make sure that it's the size that will fit your stove or your fireplace. If they bring you pieces that are 30, 36 inches long, that's going to be hard to deal with. So those smaller pieces, 18 to 20 inches or so, are best suited to most of the fireplaces. Let's see what else. Making sure I covered everything that you need to know about firewood. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to hit on. So one last thing, and this is another lesson that I learned the hard way. When you buy a pickup truck, they come in ratings of what they can handle. And you buy a 1/4 ton or a 1/2 ton or a 3/4 ton pickup truck. And you really need to stick to that. Just because it will fit in the bed of that truck does not mean that you should be hauling it in the bed of that truck. And the first couple of pickup trucks I had, as long as it would haul it fit-wise, I was going to haul it. And that stretched out my springs and ruined the suspension of the truck. And so it affected the ride of the truck even when I didn't have the wood in it, after it stretched everything out. But there's a safety part of that too. If you overload a truck, it affects the way it handles and steers. And the same thing with a trailer. You don't want to overload things and have an accident. You kind of incur some responsibility then. So make sure that you're not overloading whatever you're using to haul it with. If you've got a full-size truck with with a standard size bed, if you tried to fill that whole thing up, you might be carrying up to 4,500 pounds, which is, I guess that's 2 1/4 tons. Don't do that. A ton is 2,000 pounds, and if it's a 1/4 ton pickup truck, which the 1500s, that's what they are, you need to, or a 150, F-150, you need to make sure that you're not hauling more than about, 500 pounds would be a 1/4 ton. So make sure you don't overload your truck. Another thing is make sure you check your chimney. Have somebody come and inspect it, especially if it's not been used in a while. You don't want there to be a problem. You might have had birds build a nest in there, the creosote not be built up. You just need to have it checked first to make sure that it's safe. Sometimes people have fireplaces or chimneys that have a liner in them, and if it's the old tile kind, they can be cracked. And if it's cracked, it can lead to a house fire. So just take some precautions before you use the wood. But in the long run, the wood is your cheapest route. And if you got any questions about what we've talked about today, you can call us here at the Extension office at 633-2362, and I can get you all the material that we spoke on.
All right, welcome to the Letcher County Extension office. I'm the Ag Assistant here. My name's Brad Sexton, and we're going to touch a few areas of beekeeping today. I know it's getting late in the year and everybody should have started the extraction process or almost finished with it. If you're starting it now, it's getting a late start, but you do have time. And right here is what you should be looking at right now going on your shelves is the one of the best advantages to beekeeping, and one of my favorite things to do with it is the eating process of the honey. They've got some of the sweetest treats that you can ever make out of this, and it's amazing what the little honeybees can make out of this right here, even down if you want to just take a spoon and eat it or cook with it or anything in general. But this is one of my favorite ways of doing it, and bees are beneficial too with the pollination process. If you garden or anything like that right there, you really need to think about having these around, maybe one hive, maybe just, you may want more, you may want to get into it real big, but a few hives around if you garden or if you raise any kind of fruit whatsoever, they're beneficial to the pollination process, and it's really, they'll help you out, and you can tell the difference in the fruit even down to the vegetable and the plant-wise. The health of it, the pollination process is just really beneficial to us. And if you all have extracted honey by now and got this process out of the way, then you really need to focus on leaving enough food for them to get through the winter on. They have really, you need 30 to 60 pounds of honey in the hive that you need to leave for them. And when I say 30 to 60 pounds, it is 8 to 9 of these frames right here that is capped and full of honey cells. That will get them through the winter and make sure that you have really left them a good food source to start out with in the spring. What you do for them now really determines your success in the spring. It really is beneficial to them, and if you don't leave them enough food, then they could starve to death, and you really won't know what's going on until it's too late. Now, some beneficial things that you can do right now, if you realize that you don't have enough food for them in the hive, you can actually make up a 50-50 sugar water mix in a half a gallon jar, sort of a jar like this, and you can absolutely just say this is your hive right here, and these are the bottom components of your hive, and you can put like a shallow on the top and leave it open and actually put the jar down in there. And if they need to feed with the sugar water right now up until till it's time, when it really gets cold. Now, you can't really feed them when it gets below freezing, because the sugar water mix will freeze, and you'll have to go another route. And if you're interested in going another route of this, you just get a hold of your local bee supplier, and they will put you onto these winter patties, which is a mixture of different components that gives nutrients to the bee so they can make it through the winter. And all you would do was lay it on the top of the frames in the hive and put the lid back on it, and they can use that for nutrients to get them through the winter if it gets too cold for the sugar water. And if you do have enough food on them to the point now that you know that they'll probably make it through, then you can take as much honey off as you want. Just make sure that you've allowed the 30 to 60 pounds. And with that being said, you can pull it on down to, say, some people will do the single brood and with the queen excluder, and then they'll do the honey supers above that, and that's fine. Some people will double brood. The double brood, you have more of a chance to have more food for them to get through the winter, and now this is the key time for them to do that. It's all about taking care of them now. They've produced you some honey through the year and took care of you, so to speak, and now it's really your focus is on them. So, at the end of the day, they've really got to carry through. So there's one more really key factor, and if you look over here at this chart, it really shows a bee's life of how it starts out with the egg, and then the larva stage, and the pre-pupa, and the pupa stage on until that hatches out of the cell. When it comes out of the cell, it is, see how healthy they are, and this is a normal hive with that has no mites, so to speak. Well, they have a problem that has been really showing up here in quite a few years now, and it is mites in your hive. And if you could see this right here, I've got a circle around that is the cell before it hatches out with the varroa mite on it. And they are really, really, when the actual population of the hives sort of breaks down into the winter cluster to form the heat around the queen to make her survive through the winter, the population of bees in the hive dissipates. Well, if they don't have enough population to fight them off, you'll have more mites then you will have bees in your hive. Well, toward the end of the season, up into the spring, when everything starts to wake up and the bloom starts coming out on the trees again, you will come down and realize that the bees' hives is completely killed. And these mites will absolutely break them down to the point of no life whatsoever in the hive. So if I could just recommend one thing, it is mite treatment, and mite treatment in general. And when you get down to the mite treatments, you can call your bee supplier, they'll take care of you. They have different opportunities for you to get in there and purchase. They even have up to a 45-day mite treatment that you can start now. Now is the time to make sure that they make it through the winter. If you treat now and make sure that it looks a lot like this compared to covered up in the pupa stage like this right here, this over here on this chart is really what you really need to see. This is a healthy hive that you won't have to worry about when the springtime comes around, and you can focus on honey production and catching your swarms and really start out on a healthy note, because you really need to do the treatments now. So I really recommend you contact your bee supplier and tell them what you're interested in, tell you the number of hives that you have, and when you get down to it, they can really tell you how many mite treatments to go along with a hive. So I'd really, if y'all have any questions about beekeeping, mite treatments, or even, we have a publication here that is really, really good, and if y'all are interested in looking at this publication for beginners or even for the, professional beekeepers in general, you can call our office here and we'll be glad to send one out to you, or you can come by and pick it up and come by and see us. So I want to thank you all for watching today, and until next time.